So I'm very, very excited to introduce the very beautiful Naomi Sirio, who is a trauma counsellor actually from New South Wales. And she is here to chat with me today. My name's Medyhne from Arise Humanity. Thank you so much for everyone who's joining us. And Naomi, I've got some things, I'd love to chat to you about. So how are you going first up?
Really well, I am. I always have to kind of pause when I think about that because I am well. However, like most people that think the way that we do and connect the way that we do, it's, really challenging times. For lots of reasons. But outside of that, I guess even the challenges or the challenging times are being reflected in my work, what I'm seeing as well. So that's particularly difficult. But other than that, everything's going well in my world, which is nice.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah.
Well, I want to actually jump into something that you just hit on there, which is everything that's going on at the moment. For example, we've just had the elections in the US, which is a big hoo-ha about that. And it seems to be a little bit similar to what happened the last time, when they were sort of stolen, I guess you could say. So, I think that what I wanted to make as a point to start is that when people are constantly waiting for something to happen and they're waiting for a date for things to change, they want everything to sort of shift so that we go back to a positive world, so that we get to a place where we don't have to go through all this stuff. And I think there's a lot of people sort of on tenterhooks, and they're just sort of like constantly waiting for something to shift or to happen. But I think to be in that state is not very beneficial at the moment. I think it's probably better in my eyes, to be able to just go on with your life, but not be attached to or have any expectation about when you want this improvement to happen or when you want to see a shift happen. Which is not to say that we can't proactively work towards that as well. But I think if we just, for example, Tuesday, there's a lot of people saying, oh, TR, who rhymes with bump in America, he's going to be making a speech on Tuesday, and that could shift everything. Da, 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 da. So it's like, I find that people that I work with, clients, and I know what it's like as well, because when you're reading everything happening, you want the world to improve. So what do you say in regards to that point?
Yes, I get what you're saying, and it's interesting, isn't it? Because we do tend to look, and I'm making a generalized we statement because I'll put myself in this at times too. I need to continually bring myself back. But we put ourselves in a situation at times where we do need some kind of evidence. We need some physical evidence or something that is tangible so that we can see that we're moving in the right direction. And I understand why we latch onto that at times. I think it's problematic, even though I'd like to see things change, obviously, because, again, what we're doing is putting our power in external things.
Exactly, yes.
And I think that's how we got into this situation in
the first place. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I consistently remind myself that there is so much that, even if I reflect on my life, there is so much that has happened behind the scenes that I've not been privy to until all of a sudden my life feels different or looks different. And so, I consistently remind myself that no one's going to save me, and I don't need saving. However, I think when we start to internally shift and we come from a place of faith, and obviously that means different things to different people, but my idea of faith is trusting in the things that I cannot see, the things that are happening to my highest benefit that I might not actually have in front of me just yet. So continuing to come back to that, and then building on our own connection to who we are as soulful beings. I think that's our work. And every time we jump out to look for somebody else that might do it for us, we lose that really vital point of what this internal shift is and the collective shift is.
That's
yeah.
right.
But in the same token, I understand, because we do like to have some kind of evidence of manifestation or evidence of some sort. So I do get it.
I really try and keep up to date with all the latest, information out there, just so I know what's going on without attaching too much. But, there was a video that just came out with Charlie, and I can't say the names, it rhymes with
Another one.
Lord.
Lord Charlie, yes.
Yes. And so I'm good at rhyming, so because I love poetry, so I'm good at this. And so he was saying that by the 20th, then there will be both revelations and there will be arrests. And then we'll all see it in the public. So if nothing's happened by the 22nd, let's just change the narrative.
No.
But, he's saying that is the case. And so, again, it's attaching our power to something that's outside our own control. And this is not really what we're working towards, which is to work towards understanding that we are divine, infinite power within ourselves. We are God within ourselves, and that we are the co-creators, and we create our reality. So that is very empowering as well, because anything other than that is victimhood, really.
And I was really reminded of that very early on when this started to come to the surface, because I've always had an issue with, or always been really a little confused as to why it is that if we think about faith from a religious aspect, I mean, and I understand all of the stuff that, is a bit more hidden underneath this, but it always fascinated me that people would attach who they were to somebody external to them, right? And would worship and again, I don't want to generalize, but my concern is, why are you giving your power away to something other than your connection to the power that you already have? And so I was always really curious about that. And then lo and behold, when all of this started to come to the surface, there were people that I held in really high regard, who I would have thought were quite spiritually connected, who completely lost the plot. And I think that in some ways it's because they hadn't connected to their own divine being within, and so they're kind of like they disconnected in some way from their own knowing.
Absolutely.
And so that to me was so heightened. And I think that kind of solidified what I already knew, that we can't do that we can't give our power away to external beings or source or others in general, really.
Absolutely. That's a great point. I mean, I can also say that, so many of us have had that same experience, where people that you would have thought would be truly attuned to the truth of what's happening had absolutely no idea. And they go and get this, and then you'd think, well, I thought that you had a different perception. And I guess what I did was I put a lot of people in a sort of a box of that they would be the same as me, the same as myself, that they would pick everything up in like the things that I picked up, because I did from the very beginning, probably the same as you, Naomi, picked everything up that was happening, that it was a globalist agenda and everything like that from the very beginning. And I thought most people would be like that, but it turns out, no, that's not the case. And that's a real, that's a challenge to integrate, because then you think, well, then separation comes in, because then you think, well, they're different to me. Because otherwise they would have had the same perception. And then you have to as a someone who is trying to be evolved, you don't want to step into judgment, and you don't want to step into separation, because that's what caused the problem in the first place.
I know.
You know, so it's an interesting quandary.
It is, and I'm consistently reminded of it. Just this week, I was at an occasion, and this happens at times, but I was at an occasion where I was with other people, really lovely people, and I felt like we were in a parallel universe, like my universe, my understanding who I am and how I live my life is like we were paralleling each other. So there's like this universe that person is in, and this universe that I'm in, and we seem to be kind of going along the same path, but we're just not on the same channel.
Yes. You know what that is too? I reckon it's different sort of energetic realms that we're in.
Because I do too.
That actually happened with someone that I'm close to, and I was speaking, and every time I spoke and said something, they literally couldn't hear it. It's like they were deaf. It's like I didn't say anything. It's like, oh, that's so weird. So
isn't it? Yeah.
It could be like, they literally, because they're in a different energetic field, quantum field, they don't actually hear what you're saying.
I do wonder about that.
Yeah.
I really wonder about that. So, and that's kind of been a bit heightened for me as well. And at times it feels a bit lonely, that I thankfully I have people in my life that I can share that with, the loneliness. Yeah. And so again, there's a lot of self-soothing that we need to be doing, and self-love and self-compassion. Yeah. And understanding that things are happening and we don't know what's happening. We don't know the whole picture, but we can't lose faith. We just can't do that. Yeah.
That's the number one thing too, isn't it, at the minute? Yeah. Trust and faith.
Yeah.
That we're all going to be fine, that we are evolving collectively, and that there's not going to be this doomsday reality that many people talk about. You just have to look on any media source. It doesn't even matter if it's Telegram. There'll be things there that have that perception, and some of it is dark, that is the truth as well, and we have to integrate that. Some of the things that you're hearing about the 36 types of venom, have you heard about that in the this and things like that? Hopefully I'll get through the senses on that one, but I might have to put it in a note across the top. But that integrating things like that, and if they are truth, and then rising above and continuing on in your life with a positive attitude, and striving to be someone who raises the consciousness and helps the collective. It's a big ask, and so I think it's really, really good for people to cut themselves a bit of slack as well at the moment.
Yeah, I do too. I think we need to be kind to ourselves, and if we can be kind to ourselves, we're more likely to come from a place of non-judgment as much as possible. Yeah, which is not always easy to do.
No. So what do you think are maybe a couple of the major hurdles for people at the moment that they're dealing with? If you could just speak to, I know there's way more than that.
I think it depends on the people, which people we're talking about. But what I would like to say is that my reflection, if I think through the perspective of the types of trauma that I see, there seems to be at the moment quite a bit of uncovering of. I work a lot with people who've been subjected to acts of violence throughout childhood, a whole range of different things on a quite a big spectrum. And what I'm noticing is that we've moved from, in my experience, from what's being disclosed to me, moved from someone disclosing one person that has subjected them over time as a child to acts of violence or sexual abuse, for instance. Whereas now what I'm seeing are more disclosures where there appears to be tendrils. Yes. More tendrils, and these are from quite some time ago, but for some reason it's coming to the surface. And so when I see that as a theme, where more people are presenting with the curiosity about, I think there's more people involved in this than what I initially thought, from their own experience. I think, okay, something's shifting. Universally, something is shifting, because whilst I've seen elements of that in the past, there seems to be a lot more of it. So if we had, the way that I try to visualize that is, if we had like a film or a lens or a cover, the cover was protecting our understanding that often it is not just a solo person that's functioning in this way, when a child's being subjected to acts of abuse. Because mostly what we've understood, and people through their own experience, is that, there's this one person and this is what they did to me. But now it's like that lens has gotten thinner. And so now we can see, actually, there's more to it than that. Well, I wonder whether that's preparing the ground for what people outside of the work that I do are going to be, what the disclosure is going to be, because it's quite horrendous. And I think it's like preparing the ground so people are able to hold more of that.
So I know what you're saying. So it's like they're realizing this maybe on an individual level, but, in terms of the mass consciousness, and we have to integrate the fact that this has been happening on a mass level, like, in terms of our governments and everything. They've been trying to take us out, basically. So this is something that to integrate that, going from feeling like you're in a benign, supportive environment where people care about you and the powers that be care about you and all that, to going to acknowledging and recognizing that, no, that hasn't been the case. In fact, it's been quite the reverse. But I've still got to hold my light in the midst of it. Yeah.
Because if we can't find a way to hold our light, what we're going to, the disclosure, I think the disclosure is important. We need to have more of an understanding of just what has been occurring. And I also feel like, as a result of any disclosure that there might be, what we will ultimately find ourselves with is another level of trauma within society. So we have this level of trauma, that people are managing mostly on an individual basis. Disclosure will create another layer of trauma, and we're a traumatized society are more likely to succumb to things that we've been subjected to. So it's like, if we don't manage ourselves, it does. Yeah. So if we can't manage ourselves and still maintain some light-centered groundedness, we're going to get lost in the trauma of it all, which means that we'll be susceptible as a society to looking for someone to save us again. It's almost like it has this capacity to send us back into a trauma response.
Sure. I hear what you're saying. I think there is, though, the element that there is outside forces. For example, the raising in the frequency of light that's coming on Earth, the encodings from the sun that were being downloaded to upgrade our DNA, and then we've got the galactic help that's helping us like never before. So there's those sort of factors as well, I think, that are also here to support us through that process and to help us sort of climb out of any sort of holes that we get into in the midst of that, because we actually, through the everything being spotlit, or the karma coming up, we're dredging it up and then we're releasing and transmuting it. So we're actually getting lighter with that. And then we hopefully will continue to have a different, more helpful response because of those other things that are happening as well.
Yeah, I hope so. And I do feel that. I can feel that energetically. And even those, as you mentioned, the sun, the light codes, though I've noticed those, they've really ramped up. I've noticed those.
Yes, even in the last few days.
Yes, yeah.
I have.
I've had a couple of occasions where I've had lots of visual codes. I don't know what they mean. But especially from the sun, from the direct sunlight. Yeah. So I do feel that. And I still have, and I guess the thing that not concerns me that I do hold in the background is the war that's happening. You know, and
yes, between the light and the darkness.
Yeah, the darkness that could still, not that I think it will, but that could still try to keep us in a traumatized state so that we're more accessible. So I'm hoping that we move out of that. I believe we will, but you know, it's just something that I do get. I get a little confronted by at times. Yeah.
Sure, I hear you. Well, especially with the work that you're doing. And I think it's up to people to take responsibility to utilize tools and resources and all their skills and their gifts and their awareness to do whatever they can to keep themselves in a state where they're as positive as possible without, you know, suppressing the fact that things are coming up, allowing themselves to work through that, but also to rise above it in a sense. And you know, we can only really truly do that for ourselves. So we all need to take responsibility and accountability for that and find ways that we can really nurture our souls, like you were just saying earlier. So really important.
Yeah, it is important. And, you know, utilizing the earth, grounding ourselves, connecting with nature, you know, taking ourselves outside, really doing the things that we intrinsically know how to do. It's just that we've been shut down in that sense. So really going back to that is so vitally important, and surrendering the things that, you know, tend to pull us down wherever we can, you know, surrendering the things that we actually can't impact. So there's so many different layers to it, and it's really challenging for many people. It's almost like it's like a workout, you know,
a marathon. Goes on
like
and on and on.
It does. Yeah.
From a higher perspective, like it's the blink of an eye, it's nothing.
Yes.
But us here on the earth level, it's like, oh.
I know. And that's, you know, but we are here on earth, and we are doing life as human beings in this reality. And like, what an incredible time really to be alive. Not dismissing or undermining the, you know, the devastation for some people, but it really is such a profound time to be witnessing and experiencing what we are.
I mean, if it happens the way that I think, which is that we're going to go into this for the first time in humanity's history and eons, going into this new evolved golden age, you know, as you know, I often speak about. If that is the consequence or the result of what we're going through now, then every second, every moment of this is totally, totally worth it. And to hold in your vision that this is what we're all working towards. We're aiming to liberate finally, for the first time in millions of years, humanity into a new paradigm that allows them to fulfill their potential and to be truly happy and to embody the God essence of who we truly are. You know, that is what we are doing now. And I think people remember that and they feel how huge that is, how profound that is, then it allows us to work through this current time, which, you know, for many seems to be dragging on and on. But if you hold that thought in your mind of what we're actually doing, it's way beyond the sort of uncomfortableness, or for many people it's, you know, it is quite despairing, but it is going to so be worth it when we get there. And we're doing this not only for ourselves, who we are here on the planet now, but we're doing it for the generations to come and for the children. And so it's totally worth it. And I think that that's really important to hold in your mind.
It is. And whether we do it for our own children or we do it for children in general, you know, that is, if you plant a tree, you sometimes don't get to see the fruit of that tree. You know, it goes beyond your lifetime. But it doesn't stop us from planting trees, because we know that the seed will germinate and the seed will be tended to, and then over time many people will benefit from that. And so I continually remind myself that, you know, that really in the fighting, you know, the rallies that I've attended, and, you know, they're just not fighting in an aggressive way, but I fight by holding my ground and by really consistently focusing on the divine within myself, so that I can then bring that into my interactions. One of the greatest driving forces for me, probably the greatest, is the children, you know, mine and children in general, because
me too. I'm very passionate about that.
Yeah, I think that when we focus on that, we want to shift and create a world that, you know, we'd be proud to hand on to children, so that they can live with freedom and grace and, you know, connection to their divine purpose. And I think that's really so important.
Yes. So when it's sort of like, in an analogy, it's like there's a veil between where we are now and where we want to be, and we can't see through the veil. It's in front of us, but we just have to know that it's for the children, and just to trust that this is what we're working for, even though we can't see it fully yet.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, even in my readings, in my meditations, that is a consistent message. It's either around faith or, you know, the intersection between worlds, and how we can't see that sometimes, but we have to understand that, you know, even there's divine purpose in that. You know, maybe it would be too much for me to be able to hold a vision of what this is going to look like, because I'll be completely overwhelmed in a good way. So I have faith that I will get the information that is purposeful and appropriate to the level that I'm at. So, you know, I want to be able to see more and connect with more and have access to more codes. And so I consistently work on bringing myself back to a place where I can access those things. And we can all do that individually, all of us.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's also exactly what you're talking about is to be able to hold higher levels of high vibrational energy, like joy, because it's like fake it till you make it. You know, you hold that energy and then you actually draw it into your reality. So if you're staying the same in your energy field, or you're going backwards, you're not creating a better reality for yourself. No. But if you are able to do things that draw in that higher frequency and that joy, and expand your capability for feeling those feelings, expand your capability for feeling joy, you know, to me, that's a really important part of it, because that allows for the planet to expand in its ability to hold joy for us, because, you know, we are a reflection. The planet is a reflection of our how we feel about everything in our energy. So do things that create more joy all the time through the midst of everything that's happening. If you need to sort of, I guess, have a break from it and block it out for a while and just go and do things that lift you up, I think that's so important at the minute.
It is. And, you know, one of the easiest ways to do that, most people have access to some social media platform, or, you know, they might have little children close by, or, you know, just listen to a child giggle. That's all you need to do, really. Yes. You know, a child in their element, and feel like you can tap into that energy, because they know what we've lost connection to. And in their playfulness and their fun and their giggling, we can, and I get goosebumps when I think about it, we can access that same level of life experience. And it's so accessible. All you have to do is turn your phone on and have a look on Instagram and search something, and just like that, you'll have it if you don't have a child close by.
or those beautiful animal videos where
Oh,
animals are cuddling one another. They're doing cute things, and that straight away lifts me up as well. I love all that sort of stuff. It straight away shifts my energy when I look at that as well. So there's plenty of them online.
Yeah, and sometimes all you need is a little prompt. That's all, because we do get a bit stuck in what is this and what's the purpose and is this ever going to change, or just stuck in life in general. So we do sometimes need to intentionally pull ourselves out and access a different energy vibration. And laughter and joy from a child is the purest form that you will get. And that's why they've tried to destroy that, in the background. So we need to purposely seek that out and vibrate that more into the world, I think.
Yeah, that's a great point. I actually watched a movie last night that was a documentary, but it was so beautiful and uplifting. And it was about the importance in every moment that we're here in our incarnation to work towards self-realization. And it's a brilliant, inspiring documentary. I'm going to leave it in the link below. And there was also another one that my partner found online, which was a guy called Robert Schwartz, and he talks about the pre-planning that occurred before you came to this incarnation, and what that involved. And it was really, really great. So they're both two inspiring, uplifting documentaries that make you think about things. So if you feel like having a positive experience, you just watch them. And also, of course, there's always comedies.
Yes.
What are your favorite comedies?
Oh gosh, we recycle them at home. Like I watched something completely ridiculous the other evening. I can't even remember who it was. I can't even remember what it was called. But things like I don't know, things that are just so ridiculous that you have to laugh because they're so ridiculous. I can't even think off the top of my head, but those ones that I just think to myself, those actors must have had a great time making those movies. There must have been a lot of takes. So I do that because I think, again, I do like to look at what's happening in the world on more of a serious level, but I also need to balance that because I need to just tap into that and think, okay, that appears to be where we might be at. And now I need to live this life with as much joy and gratitude as I can alongside of that. So I think comedies. Yeah. What about you? Do you have a comedy that you can think of?
I think Steve Martin's pretty funny.
Yeah.
He's great. And I was talking to a friend about this the other day, and he said he loved the Monty Python series.
Okay.
I thought, that's interesting. Of course, there's always things like Faulty Towers and stuff.
Yes.
We've all been to a restaurant where the service has been like that, and we can relate to that.
It's nice. It's nice to have a laugh.
Yeah, it is, absolutely. So tell me what's coming up for you in the next few weeks. Anything specific that you're working with, or?
I am, over the next few weeks, probably up to just before Christmas, I am absolutely chock-a-block full of work, and beautiful work. So either therapeutic work, trauma work, but also healing work with my clients. And then I'm looking forward to a month off over Christmas, which will be really lovely.
Are you going away?
I don't know if we'll go away or if I live in one of the most beautiful places in Australia. So I sometimes think, what's the point of going away? It's just so beautiful. It's like a holiday all the time. So who knows? We may pop off somewhere for a couple of days, but starting next year, I'm going to have some groups. So I'm working on some online groups to be able to access more people, which are the archetypes of womanhood.
Right.
So working on, so moving through the archetypes. I happen to be in the archetype of the creatrix at the moment. So that's where I will start, and really allowing ourselves to plant as women ourselves into that archetype, grieve perhaps parts of past archetypes that we need to let go of, and also prepare ourselves to transition into the next. And for me, the next will be into elderhood, really, which is more into that that phase where I can really sit in the wisdom if I prepare myself for that. So I'm so excited. That's the first time that I'll be running that online. And I'll just continue with my work in general that keeps me very busy and that I love to do. So, and finish writing my book, which I've been doing for 2 years. So working through the manuscript and trying to get that finished. So lots on, but yeah, it's exciting. I love it. What about you?
Oh, that sounds wonderful. I've got my community chat tomorrow night for my Patreon community, which is always very interesting. And we have different themes that we discuss every week. And it's a real debriefing for people, I think,
That's
sometimes,
nice. Yeah.
which is really helpful. And, we're coming up to Christmas. I'm very excited because my son's coming up to stay with me. So I'm sort of got
Lovely.
which is really super
Beautiful.
exciting.
Yeah.
As long as we don't have any, because there's all these murmurings about, as long as we don't have any more of those L word things.
I
But
know.
I don't want put energy into that. But if that does happen, we'll just work around it. But that what they're like. They don't want people to come together and unite and talk and share their experiences, because then people empower one another. So you can understand why the dark doesn't like people to come together, or especially families and loved ones and things like that. So
because when we come together in love, and that's dangerous to the more darker agenda, that's dangerous. So
we talk about what's been happening, and then more and more people hear about the results of this and all that sort of thing, and then people become really more awakened to the truth of what's going on around us. Otherwise, because it is so censored and suppressed. But I do feel like things are changing with that, and there's some positive things all the time that are happening. And more and more light coming down, and it could be at any moment that things do shift, but again, not attaching to that and just getting on with life. And I guess too, that feeling of service to others really helps, because when you feel like you're helping the collective in some way, and you get the focus or energy off yourself and you put it onto other things and that's always incredibly beneficial, both for the people that you're working with and for yourself. And I think that focus, when we get when people get depressed or they get down, they tend to become more and more self-focused, and then it expands, these feelings of anxiety or whatever, just to get bigger and bigger, because they're so focused on themselves. So when stepping out and doing something for somebody else, sweeping the doorstep of a neighbor's staircase, or I don't know, any little thing, anything that you can think of to get yourself out of yourself, particularly if you're feeling a bit down. I think that is a really important key.
I had a friend who, on two different occasions within the space of a week, had somebody pay something forward for her. So one was she was ordering lunch and somebody stepped in and said, I'm going to pay for that for you. And the other was something else at another, I think it was a coffee or something like that. And it was profound for her.
Wow.
Absolutely profound. She cried for probably a good hour afterwards.
Wow, exactly.
Just because of the kindness and the generosity. And it doesn't need to be a huge amount of money or any grand gesture, but isn't that interesting that it's so unusual for us to do those things? It has such a profound effect because it's not something we do very often.
Well, I guess the thing is to put kindness at the forefront of your goals, and just to say, how can I express kindness today in the world? And even just a smile, a thing as simple as a smile, when you smile at someone, can mean everything, you know?
Yes, it does. It does. And we can all do that, can't we? We
Yeah,
can all
yeah,
smile.
totally. Yeah. I remember when I was little, I used to get on the bus and I just smile at everyone, and they'd all look sort of really serious at me. And I think, why doesn't anyone else
It's
smile?
wrong. I know. I
I
think
couldn't
that
understand it.
I often smile at little children, when they're looking at you.
Yeah.
And they don't always smile back, especially little toddlers. They probably think, why is that woman looking at me? But I want them to feel like the world has lots of goodness in it. And so
Yeah.
I will naturally smile. I'll smile at dogs.
So do I. So do I. Yeah, and animals, just be really nice, and modulate your pitch so you sound kind to animals,
Yeah.
because you're so sensitive, and
Yeah.
all those sorts of things. Yeah,
Yeah, it's
it's really
important.
important.
And it's fun. Yeah, it's a bit of
Yeah,
fun. Mm.
totally.
Yeah.
Uh, well, it's so lovely to chat with you, Naomi. I'm going to put all your details below in the contact details. So if people want to contact you, we're both available, for sessions coming up to Christmas too. You can also I gift sessions to family members if people want to gift one to a family member. Do you do that sort of thing as well?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
do. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, working on our soul growth and our evolution at the moment, and getting support with that, could be the best sort of thing you can possibly give someone.
Mm.
Material things, they last. The joy of them lasts very briefly, and then it dissipates and it's
Yeah.
gone.
Yeah.
And but the things that really matter are the internal things. Especially at the moment.
Yes, I
Um,
agree. Agree.
yeah, yeah. Um, so just tell me, just as a final thing,
Yes.
what are some maybe parting words that you can leave with people that are watching and going through, potentially, because you focus with your work on trauma, for people that are perhaps having challenges right at the minute, just with everything that's happening?
Yeah. Well, what we've already talked about, I think, is important, to really try to find a way that you can connect with a different vibration. And as simple as being close by a child in their joy.
Mm.
I can't, you cannot underestimate the profound impact of that. Our whole being starts to resonate with that, which it has a really strong internal impact. So that's one thing. To please reconnect with faith. And what I mean by that is to understand that there will always be things that are occurring for us, which might not appear to look and feel and seem as though they are positive things, to get support around those, and to understand that there are many elements of our existence that we don't understand from this perspective.
Yeah.
And so whenever you can, and you feel overwhelmed, or you feel as though life isn't working in your favor, please remember that there are things that are working in your favor, and you just may not be able to see them yet. Journaling helps a lot. Connecting with somebody to be able to talk through things helps a lot. And really planting yourself in nature helps a lot also. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think just by virtue of being in this 3D reality that we exist in, we can't have all the answers. We don't have the bigger picture. We never will. So
No.
it's learning to exist within that, knowing that you also are aware that there's a divine creator, and that is benevolent, and that, so therefore this bigger picture is going to be working ultimately toward the evolution of the light,
Yeah.
and dissolving the dark. That is the quantum sort of direction of everything. So trusting that even though we can't see how exactly at the moment on the earth this is playing out, this is what's happening.
Yeah.
And we will all go back to the source at some point. We are the source, but we're also going to work towards going back to, because that is the direction that everything ultimately goes. So
Yes.
knowing that
Even just putting your hand on your heart and saying thank you. You know, thank you for everything that happens, for, you know, I want to say behind the scenes, which is not literally, you know, what's happening, but thank you for all of the work that is done on my behalf, you know, and that I can tap into. And I really look forward to those moments when I start to see some of those, or I start to feel some of those, you know, happenings. And thank you is a really powerful prayer in and of itself.
Oh, 100%. It's gratitude is so important.
It is.
And another takeaway that I'd like to share too was that when I watched this talk by Robert Schwartz, he said that in a hypnosis session, I think, or either it happened to him or happened to one of his clients in a hypnosis. But anyway, Jesus came through and said that, I think it was, he talked to Jesus, and Jesus came through and said that he couldn't finish his mission on earth, and then it was light workers, it was us that were here to finish the mission for him. Isn't that beautiful?
That is beautiful.
Yeah, so we're here to finish the mission. So
yeah,
if you're taking on that role on behalf of you know who, then you can really pat yourself on the back, and you can you know, give yourself kudos and credit, because that's huge.
Yeah, it is. It's huge. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Yeah, that's a beautiful thought, actually.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah,
So,
it is.
thank you, Naomi. So beautiful
Thanks,
to chat
Medyhne.
to you.
You too.
And I'm sure we'll chat again soon. And thank you for all the wonderful work you're doing too on the planet at the moment.
Well, thank you. You too, Medyhne. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.